Darklord is finally back. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Darklord with the new support that they finally, after like 10 years, have added to Master Duel. It's not technically been that long, but it has been quite some time. So we have a whole bunch of new cards to talk about, and we're going to start off with those new cards, actually starting with the new fusion, because this is incredibly powerful and leads the deck to more of a fusion focused archetype as opposed to what it previously was with a lot of like main deck boss monsters and such. And Evening Star is a really solid card. First and foremost, it requires 2 level 6 or higher dark fairy monsters, which means that you do have to have some of the higher level monsters in rotation. However, we'll get to how the fact that this is still easy to accomplish in some of the other cards. It also can't be targeted, which is great. Or more specifically, can't be targeted by the opponent's card effects, which is again great. If this card is fusion summoned, you can also set a Darklord spell and a Darklord trap from your deck. Now, this is incredibly advantageous because it means that if you can get to this guy, you either have follow-up or you have continuations of your plays on that turn, and you get that additional disruption. And it has the same text as every other Darklord, with the ability to target a Darklord spell trap in the grave by paying 1,000 life points and using its effect. So, really strong. Pair that with the El Primero, which also has the ability to nuke the field, and you get some pretty solid fusion monsters. Then we have ourselves the new spell, which is the next one we're going to talk about, which is Darklord Dance. I believe it was also originally called Darklord Fusion. I consistently call it Fusion, but it is called Darklord Dance, which I actually like a little bit better. But it's a fusion spell. You fusion summon a Dark Fairy fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters from hand, field, and or grave as material. Now, notably, you can also use the opponent's field. If you summon a Darklord fusion monster, you can use Darklord monsters your opponent controls. Now, there's a bunch of ways to give your opponent Darklord monsters, most notably off of Indulged. Give your opponent a Darklord monster, and then you can use it for the Darklord Dance. It's fantastic. It is a once per turn effect on that, but being able to banish from grave, from the opponent's field, and, hand, all of that other jazz, means that you have a lot of ways to gain access to something like Evening Star, which is really, really nice. You can even link off your monsters to go into Condemned before going into the new fusion. Pretty solid. Next up, we have 2 new monsters that are also pretty useful. I believe there's also a new trap. We're not playing the new trap. But we do have Darklord, that guy, which is a new normal summon for the deck. On normal or special, you can special summon a Darklord from the deck, except itself, and then you're locked into fairies for the rest of this turn. And then on top of that, if you control a Dark Fairy fusion monster, you can banish it from the grave in order to add back a Darklord or a quick play or forbidden quick play spell card from your grave. Pretty solid. Mostly used for that first effect, and the card that we are generally getting off of it is Indulged to get additional pieces and to get those 2 bodies onto the field for Condemned or the like. We also have Golgullet, which we are playing 3 of as well, which says on special summon it, you can special summon it 2 additional Darklord tokens that are level 6, 0/0 level 6 Dark Fairy monsters, and then you're locked into fairies. On top of that, this is the important part, if it's sent to the grave, you get to add a Darklord card or a forbidden quick play spell from your deck to your hand. Now, this allows us the ability to search out both Forbidden Crown and Forbidden Droplet, which we are playing a total of 3 for both of those, the 2 Droplet and the 1 Crown. Because, yeah, being able to search it is pretty solid. And that's it for the new cards. This generally does change quite drastically how this deck plays. First and foremost, now we have 2 really strong normal summons, because being able to normal summon the Indulged Darklord now also gets us into the combo, because we can give our opponent something else and then just search out something like Ixchel or Golgullet in order to then trigger their effects. Now, to be fair, this isn't technically a 1-card combo, similarly to like Ugoback or something of that nature, but it is significantly more consistent to actually be able to go Indulged and search out one of your important pieces and then use it to generate advantage, right? Also, because Golgolet has the ability to trigger when it's sent to the graveyard, it means that even if you were to be interrupted on something like Ixchel, you'd still have that additional search if you pitch the Golgolet. So again, pairing that with the Indulged means that you can kind of play through interaction, not consistently, but sometimes you can. And that is it for the explanation of those new cards. We're just going to go over the card by card. I'm playing 4E1 here because we are playing a few bricks, but mostly just because I didn't really have anything I wanted to cut. I did kind of still want to play the 2 Fuwas, so there's that. We are playing a more non-engine variant of the deck. You could throw in other engines, but I'll get into why I'm not playing that at the end of the video. But yeah, we're playing ourselves the 1 Herald of Orange Light. You could play more Heralds. I don't find them all that useful because the only card that you want to send to the grave is Golgolet, which is not great. The thing with Darklords that have always been the case is you want Darklords in hand. You don't want to send cards to the graveyard. You want to keep them in your hand. You want to use them in your hand. So sending them to the graveyard is not a great idea, so we're only playing the 1 really good Herald. If we had more, we would play more. This card's just really strong. We're playing 1 Maxi and 2 Fuwa. Honestly, Fuwa's not great right now. It's still pretty good. However, I think there are more applicable cards, notably being able to play Dominus Impulse and have the ability to, like, destroy something on the opponent's turn. I think is a little bit more advantageous. So we're also playing the 3 Infib alongside the 3 Dominus Impulse because we are a dark-centric deck. We're also playing the 3 Ash to deal with things like Fuwa and Maxi, and that is it for the hand traps. We're also playing, of course, the Forbidden Droplet and the Forbidden Crown as well. And then we also have Super Polymerization in here, which is mostly because we have a bunch of extra deck space for it. So there you go. As for the main deck monsters, we are playing the 3 Indulged, 3 that guy. As our normal summons, we're just playing the 6. And the reason for this, pretty simple. You don't want to get over 6 normal summons, generally speaking. You can kind of sometimes, but for the most part, you really don't want a whole bunch of normal summons, right? So we're just playing the 6. And these 2 are just normal summons. Theoretically, you can special summon them, but they don't special summon themselves, so you really only want them to be normal summons, and playing more copies of those, like playing Ukobak or something else of that nature, means that you are more dead in the water because you would just have more hands full of normal summons that you can't get rid of. Like, you can't do anything with them, right? We're playing the Golgolet. This is just a card that we kind of need to send to the graveyard, so seeing multiple of it is pretty nice, and specifically pairing it with Ixchel to draw 2 and search a card is pretty useful as well. We're also playing 1 Nastin. It comes up a lot, being able to pitch cards from your hand in order to special summon it to get a guy that has the copy effect in your or on your field, as well as being able to special summon it off of something like an Indulged or something like a Morningstar, or just having that additional name of a thing that can copy that isn't the fusion is pretty useful. We're playing also 2 Morningstar. It comes up occasionally because you want to banish 1 for the first Darklord, and then sometimes you'll want to tribute summon 1. Also, just drawing it isn't terrible because you can use it with the fusion spell in order to just nuke the opponent's field without them really knowing, right? So again, it's not terrible. As for the spells, we're playing the 3 Banishment, the 1 Contact, and the 2 Dance, and that is it for the Darklord spells. And then we're playing the 1 Rebellion, which is the Destroy effect, and then the 1 Spell Trap, or not Spell Trap, Monster Negate with Sanctified. As for the extra deck, it's a bunch of Super Poly targets, the 2 First Darklord, 2 Evening Star, and 2 Condemned for our Darklord monsters. We're also playing a 1 Rahamu, which is a pretty solid effect. Just requires 2 effect monsters. While it's link summoned, you can normal summon a level 5 or higher monster without tributing, and during the main phase you can quick effect normal summon a level 5 or higher dark monster. During the end phase you can also cycle some of your cards. So say you had some useless Fuwas or something else of that nature in your hand, you could potentially shuffle them back and draw better cards. Mostly used for that tribute effect, though. We're also playing a IP Masquerena, Dark SP, and the Underworld Goddess. Realistically, I think Underworld should probably be Typhon. I think Typhon's just better. But yeah, something of that nature is pretty solid as well. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performed. Alrighty, here we are going at second, and wow, that's a hand. All right, let's see what we can accomplish here. First and foremost, our opponent is going to go for the Aluber, which we are going to promptly imperm. As well, we have a second imperm. And that does end our opponent's turn, which is kind of surprising. Cool. We draw a second eggshell, because of course we do. My opponent's going to go for the Maxi here. We're going to activate the eggshell, and of course they have the Ash. By the way, they fired that Ash before I had even discarded the eggshells. Like, that's how fast they were. They were just like, no! Which is very funny. If you're wondering why I pitched the second eggshell as opposed to Rebellion, the reason for that is because Rebellion, if I were to have drawn something like the Golgullet, I would still be able to use it on the opponent's turn here. So I could like set the Rebellion and then use it. So it was a little bit more advantageous to pitch the eggshell. Obviously, if my opponent doesn't have Ash, if my opponent does have Ash, yeah, it's way better to keep the eggshell in hand, because now any Darklord gives us the ability to draw two, right? I'm not going to play around the Ash. Like, if they have Ash, I'm cooked either way. There's, like, nothing I can do about that. So I'm more concerned about just making the best available play I have, right? Anyway, they're going to go for the Ecclesia, which I will promptly imperm, and then just go to combat. Because, again, they don't have anything, which is kind of surprising. They're going to set a card and pass the turn. Sure. This is likely an imperm given where they've set it. And there's the guy. Okay, cool. Good thing we have the Rebellion, though I guess Eggshell would arguably be better here, right? They're just going to go to combat. I'm just going to pitch a card in order to destroy one so that I don't die, and trigger the Golgullet, allowing us to search out Banishment, which gives us the ability to search Contact on the following turn. As long as they don't have Ash or Droll. Actually, Droll would still be fine, but yeah, as long as they don't have Ash, we're good. We're going to grab Dance here because we did end up drawing the normal summon, and we're just going to fusion summon into the Evening Star. Now, notably, again, Evening Star cannot be targeted by the opponent's card effect, so while this may be imperm, they can't activate it. Cool. We're going to set the Contact and the Sanctified, and then normal summon the guy. Don't know his name. Anyway, regardless. This allows us to still activate the Contact after the imperm in order to bring back the eggshell, and we have the Sanctified to get the normal summon off of the field, so I'm not too concerned. They're just going to immediately go to combat here and attempt to attack for lethal. Of course, we're not going to allow that. And at this point, we've kind of turned the corner. There's not a whole lot that the opponent can do for themselves before we just kill them. So, yeah. We're going to go for the Indulged as well in order to grab up the Morning Star, and then we're going to activate the effect of the Sanctified using the Evening Star in order to just gain some more life points. I believe I negated the eggshell there. Anyway, they're going to imperm, doesn't really matter. And then we end up drawing Ash for turn, which is kind of funny. But we're just going to go for the Morning Star. We're going to summon out two guys and then activate the effect and mill some, which wasn't greatest, the greatest of mills, a whole bunch of hand traps and stuff, but it's fine. I'm going to gain some life points as well, just in case. And then I fusion summon into the first Darklord. If you're wondering why I didn't use Morningstar here, it's because I just want to attack at the Ecclesia. That's it. So we're going to walk into the Ecclesia for lethal damage, and good game. Alrighty, here we are once again going second, and I'm not going to lie, my opponent's first turn is not going to look very good, but that's okay, because my first turn actually is pretty good, and that's why I'm going to show you this replay. So my opponent is going to reveal that they are on Blue Eyes. Sorry, Primite. We all know it's Blue Eyes, let's be honest with ourselves. They're going to go for the Mausoleum. They're going to go for the Mausoleum. Then they're going to Tribute in order to special summon a guy. They're going to go for the Roar as well. And out comes Jet Dragon. They're going to make Dragluxion. Fun! Out comes 7th Tachyon. Activate the effect of the 7th Tachyon. Reveal the Tachyon Dragon and grab Light and Darkness Dragon. Ah, I see. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, instead of tribute summoning the Light and Darkness Dragon, they just don't. So there's that. I don't have to worry about anything here. Anyway, now we did have the Forbidden Crown to be able to put a stop to that and still do our plays, so I'm not really too concerned here. However, we do get to go for the normal summon, the newer normal summon, which just gets eaten by the Roar. That's fine. We're going to summon the Golgullet. And then I'm kind of a bit of a goof here because I go Condemned and don't use the Golgullet to search a card. That was like the whole point of summoning this guy. I was like, oh, let me search a card off of this guy's effect so that I can search out Contact and bring it back or what have you. And I just don't do that. Don't know why I did that. It's fine. We could just discard it. We'll grab Nastin here, and then I'm going to special summon the Nastin, pitching the other two Darklords, and search out anyway with the Nastin. So it's still fine. We still made it work, but oops. We're going to go for the Excel here. We're going to search an additional time to go for the Dance, and then link those, or link 2 off in order to go into the Rahamu. And now we can grab the Droplet. So now I have Droplet and Crown, which is pretty solid. We're going to go for the Dance as well in order to banish 2 to go for Evening Star, which can set one of our traps from the deck. Notably, I tend to grab Sanctified Darklord. I feel like having non-targeted effect negation tends to be better, but it also gains you life points, which does come up quite often in Darklord because you're paying 1,000 every time you use a copy effect. So having lower life points does come up, right? So being able to at least keep your life points relatively high is pretty useful. We're going to go for the Contact here in order to grab the Indulge, which hasn't activated its effect, so we're going to grab the Morning Star to our hand. Here we can just Tribute Summon in order to summon the Morning Star, and then activate the effect of the Morning Star, milling a whole bunch of cards and gaining even more life points. We're going to walk over one of the cards in order to go for it, or we're going to walk over our Darklord card. And they're going to summon the Jet Dragon. Then I attempt to walk over the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and yeah, it's protected by Primary Roar, which I just forgot about. We're going to gain 3k off of the Condemned, which is kind of funny. They're going to draw, or add back the Ether Barrel after drawing for turn. Out comes Mausoleum. They're going to go for Kaiba Man. Now, notably, Kaiba Man didn't activate, which either means they're not playing 3 copies of Kaiba Man, or they were worried that activating the Kaiba Man's effect would cause me to, like, negate it and destroy it or something like that. So they just don't activate to the effect. Which I would imagine is more so because they just forgot to put 3 Blue Eyes in their deck. That's fine. They're going to go for the Spirit Dragon. I'm like, okay, sure. They're going to then summon out the Kaiba Man again in order to go into Spirit Dragon. They just happen to draw the Synchro Rumble. That's fine. I'm going to go for the Sanctified Darklord just to see if they do anything, and they just don't. So I'm like, okay. And then I attempt to do it again, and they allow me to negate both of their monsters. Anyway, out comes Light and Darkness Dragon, which is cool. I'm going to attempt to activate the effect of the Ixchel, which will be met by the Light and Darkness Dragon, which will be met by, of course, Forbidden Droplet. We're going to send a card to the graveyard, negate the effect of the Light and Darkness Dragon, and I believe because I end up destroying something here off of the Ixchel effect, they do get something in response. Out comes Jet Dragon. So, out comes Jet Dragon. They're going to activate the effect on Attack Declaration to bounce my Ixchel back to hand, which is funny. Not Declaration. Regardless, it's fine. Cool. Well, we had Orange Light to hand, which is very funny. That's all I got to say. That's a very funny thing to draw, because it actually does answer some of the cards in our opponent's grip. And because they activated, or not grip, rotation. Because they did also add back the Ixchel, they bounced it to our hand. They couldn't target some of our other boss monsters. We now just have the ability to negate one of their effects. Anyway, I go to combat here, knowing that my opponent is going to activate the Jet Dragon effect in order to try and bounce a card, and not know that Light and Darkness Dragon chains to any activation, including their own, not just a mine. So they end up negating their own effect, and I get an extra damage off of it. So that's pretty cool. They're going to go for the Jet Dragon as well. And notably, they also activate Light and Darkness Dragon, which is a mandatory effect. So they had to activate Light and Darkness Dragon as Chainlink 1, and then Jet Dragon as Chainlink 2. So the Jet Dragon was summoned and then promptly destroyed after they targeted a different card. So that's funny. Anyway, they do get the search off of the Collapse Servant to grab the Wyvern Burster, but that's fine because they are going to die right here, right now, due to El Primero. Out comes the big 5,000 attack point monster that nukes the field and kills them. Hooray! Yeah, being able to fuse during the battle phase is a nice boon for this archetype. Alrighty, here we are going first this time, and let's see what we can accomplish here. We're going to start off with the Indulge, which will be met by Fua. Okay, that's fine. We actually do have quite a few plays through Fua. We're going to give them the one draw and then go for the Banishment to go for the Golgot, go for the Ixchel in order to draw 2, and then we're going to search out Contact here. We're going to activate the effect of Contact. We're going to bring back the Ixchel, and we're going to activate the Ixchel effect in order to search out the Dance. Hooray! We're going to go for the dance here. I don't want to go into a Link monster just because it would give them an additional draw, so I elect not to and just go for the Evening Star. Now, we already drew Rebellion, so we're going to go for the Sanctified, and then we're going to set the 2 additional traps that we have and pass it back to our opponent, who has quite a few cards in their grip. They're going to go for the Time-Tearing Morganite. They're going to go for Guilt-Gripping Morganite, sure. Activate Clockwork Knight. Well, that one I know should not be allowed, so we're going to immediately destroy it, because the amount of times I've lost a Clockwork Knight against Cyber Dragon is too many, so I'm just not going to do it this time. They just passed the turn. Cool, great. Fantastic. We're just going to kill them on the crackback. Cool. Give them the Eggshell, grab the normal summon, and then draw into Ash Blossom. Sick. We're going to grab the Nastin here, and then grab Morningstar off of the Banishment. We're going to grab the Gollet as well. Then we're going to go for the Fusion Summon, fusing away the opponent's board in order to go for first Darklord. And then I just go to combat. And, yeah. Good game. There you go. Alright, we're back with the deck, and you may have noticed that those were not exactly the greatest of duelists, and that's because this is not the greatest of decks. As much as I love Darklord and enjoy playing it, the deck isn't exactly good, and it hasn't been good ever in its lifespan. Like, it's been okay, it's been, like, fringe playable, like, sometimes it's been kind of rogue if you squint your eyes and close your eyes and then don't think about it, but for the most part, it hasn't actually ever been a good deck. And quite frankly, as much as I do love the support, all of it is not capable of keeping up. It's just worse branded, but like substantially worse branded, right? It is way more interesting in the way that it works compared to branded because of the restrictions that it has. I think it is way more interesting, way more compelling as a deck to play, but the new cards don't all of a sudden make it like tier 0 or something like that, right? It's not like we got a circular or something else of that nature that does the entire combo by itself or generates a ton of advantage and can put 9 negates up or something in that regard. But what it does do is make that strategy that Darklord already had and refines it. Makes it better, makes it more cohesive, and it makes it capable of keeping up. I think the deck can compete with some decks within the metagame, but I don't think it's going to be consistently capable of beating them, or even something that I would suggest playing for a ranked ladder climb. Now, with that being said, you could also supplement a lot of these cards, specifically a lot of non-engine, for other supplementary engines. Things like the Fallen and the Virtuous engine, Melodious, Sulfur, etc. However, the problem with that is then you miss out on a lot of your already powerful non-engine. Things like Impulse, things like your Forbidden cards, which, to be fair, are searchable. You could play less, you could play more. But also, importantly, other important hand traps, such as Infip and, of course, Dominus Spark, which I don't have, but I would suggest playing. I think this card's fantastic. I'm not 100% sold on it for not only the current metagame, but more specifically for ranked ladder climb, just because there's a lot less applicable decks to use it for, or against, I should say, within the ladder. However, even with that being said, you should probably play it. It's still really, really good, right? I just don't know if it's worth it over, like, Imperm or Fua or something else of that nature. Maybe over Super Polymerization. This one's okay, but it's not like the end all be all, right? That's pretty much it. What else? Oh, sorry. Last thing that I wanted to bring up. A lot of people mentioned Herald of Mirage Lights, which, while the Heralds are good as hand traps, Herald of Mirage Lights, it's the same reason as to why I'm not playing Herald of Greenlight, because Greenlight is also very good and does trigger Golgolet, but the problem is that if I am playing Darklord down a Darklord, the likelihood of me being able to then actually do something with my Darklords drops substantially, right? Darklords require additional Darklords. Eggshell requires a Darklord. Golgolet requires Darklords to send it to the graveyard. Nastin requires multiple Darklords in hand, right? Indulged, to even do anything, requires you to have another Darklord in hand for you to either send to the graveyard for an Eggshell or trigger the Golgollet or something of that nature. Even, well, I guess this one technically works by itself because of the fact that you can do the whole line off of this individual card, but the vast majority of other Darklord cards require additional names in rotation, and specifically additional names in hand, so sending a whole bunch of them to the graveyard is, one, unlikely, but two, honestly not really worth it. Yes, Herald of Mirage Light being able to negate spell traps is very strong and is kind of necessary. It's also one of those downsides of, by playing it, you are inherently at a disadvantage because the Darklords need the Darklords in hand, and there's not a lot of other better options. I think if you were playing like SnowiKs or Melodious, some other of these fairy style decks, then yeah, sure, it's worth it. And that's where the second part that I wanted to bring up comes in. By playing those secondary engines, you lose out on a lot of going second options. So, sure, Melodious gives you a better turn 1 board, but you don't really have much to do going second, right? Like, the Melodious cards don't do anything to help you going second. Theoretically, they could, but, like, Darklord is significantly better at going second. So if you wanted the Darklord stuff to help Melodious, sure, you could, but you could also just play, like, hand traps, non-engine, things that are actually already powerful, right? And the same goes for SnowiKs and any other supplementary engine when it comes to Darklord. In this variant, I think that adding a secondary engine does detract from your ability to go second, and I think that does matter, right? And a lot of that is due to the fact that the non-engine that the deck can play without a secondary engine is really strong. Impulse is absolutely incredible. Dominus Spark is absolutely incredible. These are really powerful cards that, if you can play them, you should be playing them. And so not curating your deck to be able to do that, it can kind of be silly, for lack of a better term. Now, to be fair, you could still get away with playing Dominus Spark within, like, Melodious or the other one, SnowiKs. So, it's not terrible, but that's all. You can play it. I don't think it's necessary. And I would say it's arguably worse, because you're missing out on the ability to go second. Going first, Darklord, if you're capable of doing your entire play, if you're able to play through the 1, maybe 2 hand traps the opponent has, and you're able to end on your optimal end board, you get a board wipe, a big untargetable set of monsters with multiple spell trap negation, or not spell trap, sorry, with multiple monster negation or destruction effects, and likely backed up with some form of hand trap and or non-engine, right? A droplet, a crown, a ash, an imperm, something of that nature. So, all in all, I don't think it's necessary to add more for going first, but adding more for going second, pretty useful. That's it. I'm going to hop out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.